Wow, the room does feel different from this side of the room. Sometimes we think a person's worthiness is based on their age, educational qualifications, or what we seem as success. Would we have listened to any of the world leaders if they hadn't been as successful or when they had just started out in life? We often want credentials to validate a person's importance. But the truth is, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has an experience to share. So when I got this opportunity to talk on this stage, instead of wondering what I did to deserve this opportunity, I thought what I could share that could probably be food for thought. I wish I could tell you I know how to get the perfect scores on GRE or CAT, or how you guys could get into the Olympic team. But unfortunately, I don't know that. I can assure you though, I can tell you how to stand on impossibly high heels for 15 minutes. Besides, I do know I had to make a choice to stop people from taking my choices away from me. So here's my story as a woman. The first thing when I got on stage I wanted to do was let out a ear-splitting scream, a loud one, because for years people have told me I can't speak up, that I can't do a certain thing because of my gender. And I think it's time to change that. Gender equality, feminism, women empowerment, all of our topics individually with different dimensions. So here I'm here to talk about what it specifically means to me. And I'm going to leave you with 3 messages. Before that, for all the men in the audience, please don't zone out. This is as much as your issue as ours. Because we have a mother, a sister, a friend. So how many of you here think feminism is hating men or anti-men? It is not. It is about equality, and we are focusing on women empowerment because the scales are tipped that way. The moment we say women's issues, it doesn't mean that it doesn't involve the men. Sorry to say, but I have to point out here, rape, sexual violence, domestic violence, all involve the men. So it is as much as your issue as ours. For all the women out here, this is my first message. Carve out that place for yourself in your life. My Tinder profile says 3 things about me. A law student, which is a fact, a feminist, which is my belief, and a solo traveler, which is a hobby. I get a message from this guy who matched with me saying, "Hi, beautiful, I was really flattered. I was thinking when I looked at your profile that you have a lot of attitude, but despite that, I would still want to go out with you. Would you want to go on a date?" You know how that went. As women, most of us don't ask what we deserve for ourselves or what we need. From childhood, we have been asked to give up so many things because, boys will be boys. Probably the first time was when you longingly looked out of the window and your brother went off to play with his friends, or later when you needed to make a career choice which was fit for a woman, or when you were forced to go to a music class instead of boxing. As a person, as a woman, we have a lot of roles to play. A loving daughter, a doting sister, a dutiful wife, a dedicated employee, an understanding employer, a selfless mother. Everybody needs something from us, and it is up to us to save something for ourselves. We as women keep working really hard to be accepted in our society by people close and random to us. But when we strip ourselves of all the roles and titles, when we look at ourselves as individuals, we need something for ourselves, and that is self-identity. Carving out that place in life is a long process and often has a lot of people and circumstances influencing it. But the first question we really have to ask is honestly and to ourselves is, why am I here? What is my purpose in life? Pretty cliched questions, I know. But protecting yourself and your time is important. There will be times when you need to be able to do things with no other explanation as, but I need to do this because it means something to me. Be it a new dress, a job, a career, a life partner, you need the choice. If you don't prioritize yourself, one day you will wake up to a lot of regret. 3 months back, I was on a trek to Dharamshala. There was another woman in my group. I assumed she was probably my age, maybe a year or two older, probably working another IT job. But she told me she was a wedding planner and she had been married for 6 years. But after the wedding season, she often takes off alone to travel some part of India, sometimes even abroad, alone. She said marriage did not change herself. She had to make accommodations and compromises, but at the end of the day, she as a person needed her space. What she fundamentally did was she carved out that space for herself and didn't let a small part of her life called marriage change that. How you carve out that space is a very personalized and individual thing, for which first you have to start loving yourself, knowing yourself best. And the best way to start is by speaking up. Which leads me to my second message. Ask for what you need. Demand it when needed. At the age of 19, I called my parents one day from college and I said, I got an internship in Russia and I wanted to go. Like expected. In every family, especially when you're a girl child, single girl child that too, the chaos broke out. The threats, the debates, the tears, the anger, all of it happened. But I knew deep down I had to do this. That this was the time this was at a time when going 2 streets away to a girlfriend's house for a sleepover was not permitted. And every weekend, there used to be a fight for that. But guess what? In the end, I did go. A teenager from a South Indian conservative family, traveling abroad for the first time. I was there for 7 whole weeks, all alone, but making friends along the way. When I first started thinking about this, I didn't start with the obstacles. God, there were so many. I was scheduled to go mid-November and come back mid-January. I was going to a city called Chelyabinsk, which was also known as the gateway to Siberia. And the temperatures was hovering around -20 and -30s. Now, nobody there knew English. It was not Moscow or St. Petersburg where you can find people who have basic English knowledge. And sometimes, a lot of Indians do go there to do their masters or whatever. But in Chelyabinsk, it was a little city and nobody even knew the meaning of good morning. So the cons list was miles long, but I had one reason as to why I had to go. I would be making a statement to everyone and myself that I was capable, and being a girl is not going to hinder me from going after my dreams. There was a very, very important lesson I learned during this trip, and that was, in life, you have to make a lot of tough choices. And tough choices include losing relationships, hurting loved ones, stepping out of comfort zones, falling down, and getting back up, and sometimes without complaining, and sometimes even smiling. Until I got my visas and tickets booked, which was around a week before I was leaving for the trip, I didn't tell anybody except my parents about it. I knew I didn't want it to become an example of too many cooks spoiled the broth. Sometimes you hurt your near and dear ones because of your decisions. People told me I was being selfish for making my parents go through that stress, that I was being insolent for keeping things away from my family and friends. But I knew I had to do what was best for me. I had to draw the boundaries to balance the concerns of my family and friends with my ambitions, which is one of the most important challenges kids these days face, and I was also part of it. Often we decline opportunities because we know our parents wouldn't agree and it would cause unnecessary arguments in the house. We don't want to cause ripples in our carefully structured lives. We don't even ask for it. We make excuses because it is easier than causing trouble. While it's important to value their concerns, to be sensitive to their emotions, it shouldn't become a stumbling block in our lives. So communicate, have conversations. Don't ever assume on their behalf that they won't let you go. It was my responsibility to assure my parents that it was going to be okay, and I valued their opinions and that their support meant a lot to me. Meanwhile, my parents trusted me and actually also their parenting skills for me to be safe and responsible. So I did go, and I had 2 wonderful months. A while back, I read on Facebook that a girl had decided to decline a marriage proposal because the groom didn't want her to bring her dog. This might seem silly to a lot of people, but what she fundamentally did was carve out a space for herself in her little world. In this case, a marriage, because after all, it is usually the women who take the drastic changes in their lives for a marriage, as in their jobs, change their surname, leaving behind everything they have known all their lives. So it is not wrong to expect some compromises from the groom too. While accommodation and compromising is very important for everyone to make relationship work, for everyday routines to go well, it is also important that there should be a few points which are non-negotiable to every individual, and it is okay to expect people to respect them. At the end of the day, every decision made, be it by yourself or when others make it for you, it is going to be you who's living it. No one but you can replace that. And unless you have a deep conviction about it and voice it loud and clear, the choice is going to be taken away from you. The months after I came back from Russia was the hardest ever. Let me paint a picture for you. For 2 whole months, I was surrounded by snow. I even listened to Exotic by Priyanka Chopra on loop when I walked around. People stopped me on the streets to take pictures with me. I felt like a mini celebrity, but I didn't wear the heels on the snow. I visited colleges to give lectures. I was given standing ovations. I worked with top lawyers, judges, professors. I even taught cute little kids English, and they taught me Russian. So when I came back, it was back to plus 40 degrees. I was once again bound by curfews, dress codes, and was bombarded with all the judgments. It still hurts me to think of those days when I used to lie down for hours, wondering how I was going to carve out my space, how I was going to keep going on without breaking down. Because college, unfortunately, is when people keep constantly asking you what you want to be. Where do you want to be? Have you written GRE? Have you written CAT? Oh my God, you're 22. What have you done? So all of this was asked to me as well. And these were the times I had to save myself. There was this interesting comment made before I left to Russia. Someone asked me whether my primary motive to go to Russia was to wear skirts and sleeveless tops. So I don't understand how it makes sense to take short skirts and sleeveless tops to a place where it's minus 20. Trust me, I didn't wear any of those. I would also like to point out that a lot of times we have to consider going to a whole new country to have control over something as simple as our clothing. When a house is burgled and a complaint is lodged, we go after the burglar. The same thing when there's a murder. When a girl is raped, strangely, it is the girl who is blamed. Her clothes, her companionship, the time of the day she dared to venture out. And all of the above reasoning doesn't explain the 6-month-old baby who was raped, the 69-year-old lady who was raped. Nor does it explain the rapes which happen in the broad daylight, nor does it explain the rapist when he's a family member. Right now, as I'm talking, there is a girl out there resigning her job, a girl giving up her dreams, a girl who is hiding from her husband for the fear of getting abused, a girl who is living with the fear of not being good enough, and a girl who's being caged inside because of her gender, a girl who is reliving the night when she was raped, a girl who is an acid victim, a girl who is considered dirty because she has her periods. And this girl is probably a brother, a sister, a mother, or a friend. Be it rape, domestic violence, sexual harassment, or the everyday struggles of women, we are all party to it. Yes, you, me, our parents, the educational institutions, because that is what a society is made of. Which leads me to the third part of my speech. A small change in our everyday lives have a bigger impact than you know. Change is not a separate entity. It is something which is a culmination of a conscious effort from each and every one of us. And when I say every one of us, it includes the men too. Somehow, in the recent times, there is a strange pattern. One is when we say change, we want it to be instant. With the trends of Instagram and instant likes, we want change to happen overnight. Two, we are promoting ignorance unconsciously. We are thinking that being silent is the best way to solve a problem. Our education systems, our families, us, we all unconsciously think the same. Recently, there was this survey conducted on the psychological and academic impacts of curfews and rules by colleges in Tamil Nadu. Not surprising, it did say regressive rules are hurting careers and mental health of the girls. But we refuse to talk about this. We refuse to talk how we can teach our kids the difference between good and bad touch. We are refusing to teach our boys that a no is a no, and consent is very important. We are not teaching our girls to protect themselves. We aren't teaching them to be brave. Instead, we are telling them to be a coward and stay inside the house. We aren't telling them that they can dream big, and as families, we will support them no matter what. We aren't telling them that it is not weak to be a girl. We aren't telling our boys that they can't be entitled because of their gender. And worst of all, we are telling everyone that everyone but them knows what's good for them, and they just have to learn to deal with it. These small change, like girls refusing to marry if the groom's family demands for dowry, or the groom standing strong on the fact that they're going to split the expenses of a wedding and will not accept a dowry in no form, goes a long way in making a change. When every brother stands up to his parents to treat their sisters equally, every time we teach our kids to cook and clean because they need to be independent and not to please their in-laws, every time a girl walks out of an abusive marriage and the parents welcome her back and support her, this is all going to be a step forward in a better future. So when I started my initiative, My Story as a Woman, I insisted women write their own stories for us. They share their experiences their way. I was very reluctant to do interviews, but I did do a couple of interviews in between, and I realized I didn't want them to script their answers, shape their experiences to the questions I asked. I wanted them to share it because they felt deeply about it. My very first post, in fact, that was like exactly 1 year, 2 days back, was about an entrepreneur in Mumbai who is doing a lot of things successfully in her professional life. But when I asked her to write her story for me, I was surprised, actually horrified. She had wrote about 2 of her marriages, which had left her physically and mentally abused. In fact, it left her half paralyzed. But what inspired me the most was she didn't stop there. She got right back up, and today she's working so much to make a difference in other people's lives. So if I'm going to keep asking questions, if I'm not going to ask the right questions, what is going to happen? So my initiative was basically to encourage women to write their experiences, to share it, so that it makes a difference in their lives. And that incident changed the course of my action. And today, I'm standing testimony that I am a woman with dreams and I have the choice to make it my reality. And I'm embracing it. And I strongly encourage you to do it. Make that small change. It makes a huge impact. Thank you.